So we'll just kickstart the meeting so we don't waste too much time. We can spend more time on the training itself and on discussion and Q&A. So welcome again. My name is Ibiso Ivy King Harry, and I'm the National Coordinator for the Scaling Up Nutrition Business Network. This training is being coordinated by the Lagos State Chambers of Commerce and Industry in collaboration with the Sun Business Network and of course with support from Unicef. So before we go into the activities, there are a few housekeeping rules which we would need to go through. So I would call on my colleague, Yetunde, the communications focal point for GAIN, to take us through the housekeeping rules. Yetunde, over to you.
Thank you, Ivy. Good morning, everyone. Once again, we welcome you to the two-day training. We hope that you find what you're looking for. Let me just put it that way here. So just a few housekeeping rules before we kickstart the training. The first is that we would like you to be an active participant. Please introduce yourself in the chat upon entry. We would definitely like to meet you. Then we would please ask that you use the Q&A section if you have any comments or if you have any question. Then if you want to speak, please raise your hand in the, you'll see the participants section. There's a place where you can raise your hand. Please raise your hand so that we can coordinate this as orderly as possible. And this should only be done during the discussion and the Q&A. Once you raise your hand, we will unmute you when necessary, but please we would like you to avoid noisy activities like typing either on your laptop or on the phone, or shuffling papers while your microphone is on. And immediately you're done speaking, please would like you to switch your microphone so that we don't have any noise at the background distorting the flow. Also, we would like you to please participate in the pre and post polls, very, very important. And then we'd like you to know that the hashtag for this training, we have 3 hashtags for this training. So if you're tweeting, if you're posting on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media handle, please use these 3 hashtags for your posts. So we have nutrition for business, and the 4 is the figure 4. Then we have food safety for Niger, also the figure 4. And then we have nutrition for Nigerians. Again, hashtag nutrition for business, hashtag food safety for Niger, hashtag nutrition for Nigerians. Thank you. Over to you, Ivy.
All right, thank you so much, Yetunde. We'll go straight into the opening remarks. So for Lagos, can you share the agenda, Yetunde? Put the agenda on the screen, please. So for Lagos Chamber of Commerce, we have Mrs. Bamidele Daramola, the board chairperson of the Business Education Service and Training Unit of the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I don't believe she's here yet. Mrs. Daramola, if you're here and you're using a different name, please signify by raising your hand. But while we wait for her, I would move on to GAIN, so the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, and we'll hear from Dr. Augustine Okorowa, who is the head of the Eat Safe Country program at GAIN. Over to you, Dr. Okorowa.
Yeah, thank you very much and welcome everyone. On behalf of the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, we want to welcome everyone, all the participants, the resource persons, to the training, the basic training on nutrition and food safety. And I also wish to congratulate SBN and the Lagos Chambers of Commerce and Industry and UNICEF that is supporting this. That this is a training program that is coming at the right time. And we need this type of training for sustainable food security, for sustainable nutrition in Nigeria. And I believe very strongly that the resource persons that will be sharing their experience as a means of learning and development for all the participants are going to provide very, very clear direction on basic nutrition and food safety that all the participants will be able to deploy and use in their businesses and also even in their homes to be able to ensure that when they're talking about nutrition, they relate it to livelihoods, they relate it to the family members, they relate it to their business, and with a target that in every business that they are involved in, they mainstream the importance of nutrition and they bear in mind the importance of food safety to avoid the hazards and risks involved in producing unsafe foods that are not healthy for consumption. So I'm glad to have all of you attend this program and wish you the very best as we progress on this two-day program. You're welcome once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Okorowa. And I can see from the chat that Mrs. Daramola is having some issues logging in. So when she's successful at the login, we'll call on her to give her opening remark. But if there's someone else that wants to speak on our behalf from LCCI, please do signify by raising your hand or sending us a message and we'll call on you. So the next opening remark is from Unicef and it's from Simeon Nanama, the Chief of Nutrition. I don't know if he has also been able to join the training, or if someone else from UNICEF is representing him. Please raise your hand or send a chat through to us. Well, while we wait for UNICEF and the Chambers of Commerce for their representatives to join us, we'll move into the next item on the agenda, which is the overview of the SUN Business Network. So the SUN Business Network, the Scaling Up Nutrition Business Network, SBN for short, is part of a couple of other networks that make up what we call the SUN movement, Scaling Up Nutrition movement. So in Nigeria, we have the Civil Society Network, we have the Donor Network, we have the UN Network, we have the Business Network, which is all being coordinated by a SUN focal point known as is Dr. Chris, who is currently the Special Advisor to the Minister of Health. The SUN Business Network as well is the private sector focused network, and the SUN movement is a multi-stakeholder platform which provides a multi-stakeholder approach to combating malnutrition globally, Nigeria inclusive. So for a country to be part of the SUN movement, what it takes is for a commitment from a government focal person. So back in 2011, the then Minister of Health, Onyebuchi Chukwu, signed Nigeria to be part of the SUN movement. For the business network at a global level, it's being convened by the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, as well as the World Food Programme. In Nigeria, it's convened by GAIN, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. A study was done in 2015 to understand how businesses perceive nutrition in their operations. As you can see from this slide, the micronutrient providers were more focused on nutrition in their business operations, as well as the pharmaceutical companies. And the farther along from the nutrition, you can see that the beverage companies and health and food associations considered nutrition less. So food companies in Nigeria viewed themselves as providers of food and drinks and not nutrition. And informal processors as well were not focused on nutrition. And we had just a few companies that were investing in small pack sizes for low income population. So these were the findings that motivated GAIN to put together the SUN Business Network. Businesses can contribute to nutrition in a variety of ways. So you can have businesses in your workplace. You can facilitate access to breastfeeding facilities, maternity benefits, childcare. You can even support women economic empowerment, access to education. You can use biofortified foods in your processing. You can fortify your staples and your condiments with essential vitamins and minerals in order to reach local populations cost effectively. So at every stage of the value chain, businesses can provide services, investments, technology that can contribute to improved nutrition. The Sun Business Network in Nigeria was launched on April 21st, 2016. So we are over 4 years old in country. And this picture is just a cross-section of the early risers at the launch in Lagos that we had in 2016. So the vision of SBN is to be the focal point for private sector engagements on nutrition in Nigeria. And the mission is to strengthen the contribution of the private sector to improve nutrition in Nigeria. And we do this in 3 ways. We support improved access to nutritious foods. We support businesses, we support the increased demand for nutritious foods, as well as working to create an enabling environment for nutrition businesses.
Yes.
Right now, we are over 150 members strong and counting. We have, it's predominantly SMEs that make up the network, but we have a couple of national, multinational, international companies with operations in Nigeria as part of the network. And we have different sectors as well: food processing, logistics, business consulting, agribusiness, FMCG as part of this network. This is just a snapshot of a few of the members that we have. Like I said, we are over 150 members strong. So this is just a few of the businesses that have signed up. What it takes to be a part of the network is for each business to make a commitment to improving nutrition in Nigeria. Membership is absolutely free. Just make a commitment to improve nutrition in Nigeria and also provide an indicator which we can utilize to track that commitment or to measure your commitments, how you're meeting your commitments to nutrition. So some of the things that we do as a network, we facilitate nutrition communication workshops. We facilitate access to finance, B2B linkages. We support businesses by linking them with development projects. We facilitate consumer insight workshops to engage businesses on the use of data for product and message development, packaging workshops, develop nutrition curriculum. And we also collaborate on nutritious food fair. This is being organized by Harvest Plus, and also collaborate on conferences. In terms of access to finance, this is one of the key barriers that businesses always mention when we are doing a survey to scale up their business or to reach the low-income consumers. And so we are working actively to facilitate access to finance for businesses. We had an investment readiness workshop that was done in collaboration with Sahel Capital. And we are looking forward to having more of this types of workshops, because we found that lots of businesses are not even investment ready. They need the finance, but they're not even ready for that finance when it comes. We also organize what we call the Nutri Pitch competition, the Nourish Nigeria Challenge. This started in 2018. Businesses applied to be part of that competition, and we shortlisted down to 10 amazing businesses who then go through a rigorous boot camp. They go through a series of trainings on finance, on business plans, on nutrition, etc. And then we have a pitch day where businesses make their pitches and we select a winner. In 2018, the winner was a cold chain logistic company called Kenny O Cold Chain, who went ahead to the regional level competition, and he also won that at the regional level. In 2019, last year, we also had this competition, and these are the 10 businesses, as you can see on the screen, that were part of that competition. And the winner of that competition is Baby Grubs, And she went ahead for the global pitch competition that was held this year. And we're excited to say that she also won the global overall winner. She was overall winner of the global pitch competition. So these are some of the ways we try to facilitate access to businesses. And even right now, in terms of the feedback from the impact of COVID-19 on business operations, we're also supporting some SMEs as well with some grant opportunities. Pipeline activities. Going forward, we'll be having a dissemination of the revised BMS code. We'll be participating in Nutrition for Growth Summits. We'll be conducting this type of training for other businesses in other states. We'll be doing a nomination of business nutrition champions at a national level. We will also be facilitating more B2B linkages and technical assistance in partnership with the SBN global members. We'll be having a second phase of the trans fat reduction project, and we'll also be having SBN general meeting. So in conclusion, we are 150 businesses signed up, all with nutrition commitments. We have some businesses that have specific letters of intent. We have members increasingly participating in development of national policies. We provide technical support to businesses and also support businesses to access finance. So if you're a business and you have not yet joined the Sun Business Network, I implore you to join the Sun Business Network and contribute to improve nutrition in Nigeria. Thank you very much. So I'll quickly want to introduce the other two members of the team who are also here, just so that you can put a name to the face. So we have Tomisin Odumbaku, who is also part of that team. Tomisin.
Hi, everyone. Tomisin, it's good to have you here. Thank you.
And we also have on the meeting today, we have the SBN Africa Regional Manager, Mrs. Udwak Ibeka, who is also part of this training. Mrs. Ibeka.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the training.
Thank you very much. And I would now like to introduce the facilitator for the day, Professor Olubenga Ben Ogumoyela. So Professor Ogumoyela is a professor of food science and technology and the former dean of postgraduate school at Bells University of Technology, Otta. He holds a PhD from the University of Reading and is a fortification and food safety expert with over 40 years post-qualification experience in agriculture, food and nutrition, working in various sectors of research, academics, industry, business, and development. Prof holds various general management positions in industry in technical, commercial, and production roles in Cadbury and later in Honeywell Flour Mills, where he left as Director of Quality Assurance in 2006. Apart from his primary responsibilities, Prof is also the founder and executive director of the NGO known as Consumer Advocacy for Food Safety and Nutrition Initiative, CAFSANI, which has a focus on protecting, informing, promoting, and educating the public on the need for safe and nutritious foods. He's also a fellow and immediate chairman, body of fellows of the Institute of Food Science and Technology, a fellow and vice chairman of the Institute of Public Analysts, a chartered chemist, and a certified lead auditor. Lastly, Prof has been senior technical consultant to GAIN SBN since 2017, and has served GAIN in also various other capacities. He has a special passion for training of SMEs in business, nutrition, and food safety awareness, with particular attention to ensuring consumer expectations are always met. He has a track record of successfully training award-winning nutrition businesses at local, regional, and global levels, including the 2018 winner I mentioned earlier, Kenny Oko Chain Logistics, and the 2020 global winner, Baby Grubs from Nigeria. So, Prof, over to you to take off the training from this point.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Good morning to all participants. I hope we're going to have a wonderful time together this morning. And I believe that the The participants cut across quite a wide range. Before we go into the training, we're going to have a basic pre-test training on what I call basic nutrition principles. And I recognize that we have food businesses, we have catering businesses, we have even tourism, we have a few people that are from fashion and beauty background. But because we say nutrition actually is something that we need to engage everybody on, I think this is a very welcome mix because many businesses have come from such training as this, and I believe that this will not be an extension. So if you are the fact that you are a beauty and fashion or caterer today does not mean that you will not, in fact, ultimately begin to see nutritional opportunities and begin to see the business opportunities in this from this training. So welcome, and I'm going to ask that we go straight away into the polling right now. Yesterday, I believe you are coordinating this. So can you tell them what exactly they need to do? Or is it Tomisi?
Yes, I've launched the polls right now. You can see it on your screen. So we have about 3 to 5 minutes to fill this. The timer is on now. Thank you.
So just to confirm that the attendees can see the poll, can you all see the poll? You can write in the chat, and if you can't, or you can signify by raising your hand if you can see the polls. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Adeoke. Oh, so a couple of people are saying they can't see the poll.
I suspect some of them might be using their mobile phones. So that may be an hindrance.
Okay, so those on phones can see. Carla has confirmed that she's using a mobile and cannot see the poll. And we have a couple of people that are signifying that they can see the poll because they're using their laptop. So we are sorry, we apologize for those that have joined using their mobile phone and cannot see the polls. But for those that can, please respond to the questions. Thank you.
So you have about 30 seconds more.
Thomas, it's supposed to be 5 minutes, not 4 minutes.
Okay, sir. 1 minute more now.
Some people are raising their hands. Please take note to those who are raising their hands.
Yeah, I can see Bosun Solari even says the questions are for PhD students. All right, so after the poll, please we'll take the opening remarks from Unicef as well as from LCCI. They have representatives that are present. So once the poll is over, I would let them give their opening remarks.
Please, if you're using the chat, if you're using the Zoom webinar chat, please ensure that you're chatting, you choose the option to all panelists and attendees. I can see that some people are just sending in their comments to the panelists. So the other attendees may not be able to see your comments. So please ensure that you click to all panelists and attendees. Thank you.
Thomas,
All right.
time.
It's yeah, time up now. I'm ending the poll.
Okay, so I would call on, for UNICEF, I would call on Ms. Ngozi to give the opening remarks for UNICEF.
Good morning, colleagues, and congratulations. It's very good to be here and to see the large number of businesses who have gathered around the table to improve their knowledge about nutrition. UNICEF is happy to collaborate with GAIN on this, considering that the both partners know that it is very important to engage with private sectors and their role can never be overemphasized in addressing the burden of malnutrition in Nigeria. Over the years, GAIN and UNICEF have been working together, especially to strengthen the involvement and collaboration with private sectors and businesses. Earlier, Ms. Ivy has given us a presentation on the SBN. On this, UNICEF is currently working with the government of Nigeria, so many CSOs and NGOs, INGOs, including, hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. To address malnutrition, this focuses both on, hello?
Please go ahead.
It seems someone is saying something. Oh, okay, I was getting a feedback. UNICEF focuses both on humanitarian services and also development. This is to say that it goes beyond treatment of children who are already severely malnourished, but they also acknowledge that stunting is very common among children in Nigeria and is a part that as businesses, we all need to collaborate, including with the government, to address this, as these have a very bad impact in terms of the workforce that we produce. And on this, UNICEF will also want to congratulate us all for making this effort to be part of this training, while we encourage all to get the best we can out of it and work towards doing the best we can for the Nigerian women and children through our different businesses, by making sure that we invest now rightly into making Nigeria a well-nourished population. Thank you very much, colleagues, and welcome once again to this training.
Thank you, UNICEF. Thank you so much. For the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I think Mrs. Daramola has still not been able to join, but I can see Dr. Ojo is here. Dr. Ojo, would you want to give the opening remark for the chambers?
Mrs. Daramola is here, please.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
So, I'm representing the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mrs. Toki Mabogunche. So I have the pleasure to read our opening remark as stated. Our distinguished resource persons, esteemed participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to warmly welcome you all to this training program on basic nutrition and food safety, organized by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry in conjunction with Scaling Up Nutrition, SON, under GAIN, with support from the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and World Food Programme. The essence of this two-day training is to facilitate skills and knowledge on nutrition and food safety, particularly in the areas of human nutrition, food handling, food preparation, and food storage. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it may interest you to know that foodborne diseases cause about 600 million illness and 420,000 deaths globally every year. That means approximately 1 in 10 people each year fall sick from something they eat or drink. According to Global Nutrition Report 2020, 1 in every 9 people in the world is hungry, and 1 in every 3 is overweight or obese. More and more countries experience the double burden of malnutrition, where undernutrition coexist with overweight, obesity, and other diet-related non-communicable diseases, NCDs. Almost a quarter of all children under 5 years of age are stunted. At the same time, overweight and obesity are increasing rapidly in nearly every country in the world, with no signs of slowing. Underweight is a persistent issue for the poorest countries and can be 10 times higher than in wealthier countries. A report by the World Health Organization revealed that children are even disproportionately affected, with 125,000 kids under the age of 5 dying of foodborne illnesses annually. Therefore, a training such as this is not only necessary, but also very important and timely, so as to equip participants with relevant knowledge and competencies in food nutrition and safety, in a bid to reverse the rising trend of malnutrition and undernutrition, as well as improve public awareness on the importance of food safety. Providing adequate nutrition and food safety training to businesses in the food value chain is essential to improve nutrition and protect the general public from food poisoning, allergic reactions, and other health risks resulting from food consumptions. It is my hope that this training would help jumpstart the much needed changes needed in our food industry to engender improved nutrition and ensure food safety culture. Once again, I welcome all our distinguished facilitators and participants to this program and appreciate the support of our technical partners. I enjoy the participants to get the most from this learning opportunity. Happy interaction and thank you for listening. Tokima Bogunje, Mrs. President, LCCI, August 25, 2020. Thank you. That's the assignment assigned to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Daramola. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll go back, we'll head back to hand over to Prof to continue with the training. I believe the pre-training assessment has ended. So Tomisi, you can share the poll results so people can see how well they did. Over to you, Prof.
Tomisi, do you want to share the poll results now or what? Yeah.
I'm sharing now.
Okay. Right. Just let's look at the results. You will see that only 67% of the participants actually picked the correct answer for question 1, and 40% for question 2, which is asking about what are macronutrients. 53% for question 3, about a substance that is needed for growth, energy, bodybuilding, repair, and prevention of disease. And then, of course, different forms of malnutrition. 51% actually got the right answer, which is hypertension there. And it's interesting that 33% of the people, respondents actually thought wasting was a form of malnutrition. I mean, was not a form of malnutrition, let's put it that way. Nutrients of importance to pregnant women, 73%. Vitamins and minerals are needed to protect from disease. Adults diet, fruits and vegetables, yes, about half of it should be fruits and vegetables. I mean, that is an impressive 94% score. And 84% when it talks about the requirements on the label. And of course, the fact that vitamin A, water is not, I mean, you don't find vitamin A in water. And the last question. Thank you very much with that. I think really it sets the basis for us to go into the training directly this morning. And it's my pleasure to take on this particular training this morning. And I'll just tell a story. About sometime in 1997, and I think I was still in Cadbury at the time, somebody approached me and said, look, I'm a caterer. I want to start, I don't know anything about food. I don't know anything about nutrition, but I want to start a business. Another person said, look, I have a piggery. I'm an animal person, but I want to start something in the food business. And somehow it was, we didn't have a training of this nature, but this was the opportunity we had to engage and begin to guide such people and tell them what exactly it entailed. And today I can tell you that those people have totally left their primary areas and are now, they now own food, they are food business owners and have been in the sector now for about the last 20 to 25 years. So I'm hoping that somebody at the end of this training would actually be able to take the benefit of the training here to go on to new things. And so the presentation outline is going to, and is going to go, we're going to be looking at what are nutrition, why is nutrition of concern. We define some with terms and look at the Nigerian landscape and look at what are major food nutrients in the body, what I call the triple body of malnutrition in Nigeria, the life cycle, nutrition in the life cycle. And in each of these, I would like participants to pay attention, particular attention to the fact that there is a business opportunity in each of these areas. Every time you hear about a challenge, what should come to your mind is the fact that there is a business opportunity there. We're going to be looking at what are healthy diets and what are their benefits, different food groups, and how you handle and store foods appropriately, processing and preservation, packaging and labeling, and especially making label nutritional claims. And we are going to be looking at issues of fortification and other sustainable solutions to addressing nutritional issues and how we can identify a nutrition business. But beyond all this, I've prepared quite a number of exercises that we're going to try, and if, within the time available, we would look at some of these exercises and how we can apply them to some of the key learnings that will come from this. On that note, let's go straight on to the next What is the place of small businesses in our quest for economic growth? The micro, small, and medium enterprises, according to the Nigerian Vice President, is the bedrock of Nigeria's industrialization. And I can tell you that in many countries, they represent about 80% of the economy. You know, and it's not every product, everybody who has a product on the shelf that is part of this. Many people actually engage in businesses that are going to be intermediate products and pay attention to nutritional requirements of people. And that's why, for example, in 2019, the agricultural sector contributed 21.9% to Nigeria's GDP, while 27% came from industry, while you can imagine almost 50% came services sector. So where is our food and nutrition? It means that if everybody is focusing attention in the services sector, we really do have a challenge to change the narrative in what I call an agrarian economy like we have in Nigeria today. Now, globally, and we need to look at what are the key concerns. And I've more like tried to expand this from within the context of Nigeria. I've added 2 additional issues of concern to when it comes to today's priorities. And you will see in all of this that food and water occupy a key place when it comes to global concerns. Food, energy, and water, they occupy a key place when it comes to global concerns. And when you want to preserve nutrition, you need energy. When you want to ensure good nutrition, you need water. Food itself needs to be properly handled to ensure that the freshness of the nutrition is delivered. And then, of course, there are 2 things I've not mentioned here. And that is the fact that because we are different, we come from different backgrounds, our culture and religion, they come into play when it comes to nutrition. Then the aspect of data comes into play when it comes to nutrition. Because if you do not have data, you have a very interesting idea about the product you want to put in the market. And you have not done your homework to see whether the raw materials are available. You don't have the data, and you go into it, then of course, you're asking for a situation in which when there is no foreign exchange to back you up, the product is dead. And that's exactly what has happened to quite a number of people in the business landscape today. So it's important as we go along that you look at the agri value chains, food preservation and safety, food design and special nutrient needs, post-harvest loss reduction and prevention, and market access, because these are all the various areas in which you can have a nutrition focus. You can have a nutrition focused business. And it is extremely important that we identify the opportunities in each of these areas. Now, before I go, let me quickly take, so that I don't, I've seen that some people don't have a knowledge of what some of these terms. When we use the term malnutrition, we're talking of a lack or excess or imbalance in energy and nutrient intake. And you will see these in our discussions on undernutrition and overnutrition. And what are nutrients? They are the ones that provide nutrition, nourishment to the body. And nutrients help to promote, maintain, and repair body tissues. Of course, when we talk about macronutrients, we're talking about small nutrients that are found in small amounts in the body and are required to support growth and development, vitamins and minerals. And then, of course, the issue of additives. You'll find that this is very, very important when it comes into preserving nutrition in many areas, the freshness and safety of products. And the last point is about fortification here, because these are all terms that we're going to be hearing in the course of this discussion. And examples, of course, you will find in vitamin A in flour, you're talking of fortification. Sugar, sugar and vegetable oils containing vitamin A, mandatorily in this country. But we will come to that later. Now, Let's go on. What are the challenges? When I talk about the Nigerian landscape, the food and nutrition challenge, some of the presentations, the earlier presentation from the SBN has shown us what some part of what our challenge is. But let me quickly tell you that 22% of children in Nigeria are underweight, 37% are stunted, and only 1 in 4 children are appropriately breastfed. You will discover that we have held so many training sessions on breastfeeding, exclusive sleep breastfeeding as an important activity in the first 6 months of every child's life. So people know, but they don't do. Only 1 in 4 children are appropriately breastfed. So this is one of the challenges, and we must begin to say, why is this, and how can we change that narrative? That is part of why I said identify the opportunities, business opportunities in each of these areas. Now, and this is important because the first 1,000 days in the life of every child, the first 1,000 days are so critical to good development of good cognitive skills. And if you don't have that background, there's nothing you can do. So you have that, if you don't have good nutrition in your first 1,000 days, then you have subjected the child to a lifetime of misery. So it is important for us to see what represents severe nutritional gaps during that first 1,000 days and see how we can correct some of this, both in the home setting and from our business considerations. And then in parallel with widespread undernutrition, overweight and obesity, they are on the rise. For example, one of the things you will find is that in the last decade alone, there has been a 39% increase in the consumption of sugar-sweetened drinks. Now, that in itself should be of concern, because if you look at the fact that simultaneously obesity is on the increase in Nigeria, then you know we do have a challenge. Now, consumption of animal foods like fish have remained static, but we are increasing sugar-sweetened beverages by that. Yet we need things like proteins, fruits and vegetables and pulses to be on the increase. And this is one of the reasons why this type of training is very, very timely. Look at the way we consume a lot of white rice, no protein added, and they will drink water, and they will say this is fantastic agege bread. But we need to know the benefits of consuming all the other nutrients that will make for a balanced nutrition. Rather than consume, nothing says that you should not eat your traditional swallows, but you have to eat a diet that is not only high in carbohydrates, fats, but also high in proteins. And rather than focus on artificial fruit juices with additives and unknown chemicals, we need to understand the place of even ordinary water in our diet. So these are challenges that we're going to be examining as we go along in this training. Now, so what is nutrition? Nutrition is the science of how organisms will take in and use this food and drink for their nourishment. It refers to the processes by which we as human beings use everything that we take in to maintain life, the growth, and all normal functions of the body. And having poor nutrition can increase our susceptibility to disease, impair physical and mental development, as I mentioned earlier, and reduce our productivity. Today, it should not be surprising that we are talking of a country where productivity is as low as 34%, because it is a reflection of our our nutrition. Productivity is as low in every sector as about 34% national productivity. Go and look at the contribution of food, adequate food and nutrition to that. So let's look at, take an overview of the nutrition and science of food. Nutrition is more than just putting together and eating any food, because the food we eat helps us to sustain life and health. So you have what we call the natural foods, we have the minimally processed foods, and we have the highly processed foods. When I talk about minimally processed foods, how many of us know the best way to handle vegetables, green leafy vegetables? The moment you boil and boil and boil, 98% of the vitamin C is already gone. So, but if you actually will boil your water, dip these and bring them out, you have, that's minimally processed, and you will have a good level of your vitamin C still within those vegetables. Now, some of the common preparation methods like baking and cooking utilize the science of food to influence how the food will be appealing, how it will be digestible, and how it will bring satisfaction to the consumer and the nutrition that is required. So we're going to be learning in this training about different food molecules, the carbohydrates, what I call the macronutrients, which are essentially carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and even water, as well as the micronutrients, like vitamins and minerals, and then even the non-nutrients, which are of particular importance to food, such as colors and pigments. For instance, if you see a brown orange, you are not likely to want it. That color is totally off. That color is important, not because there is any nutrient there, but because there is a color that is associated with one product, one food or another, and that actually makes it appealing to our taste. So if you see a green sausage, you are not likely to want it. You will just say, something is wrong. But again, if it's a vegetable-based product, you can have it. So in all of this, let's look at a definition and the relationship between food and nutrition, food science and nutrition. And I define these here, food science as the study of biological, chemical, and physical properties of foods, the interaction of the nutrients, and their effects on the processing, preservation, safety, storage, and distribution of foods and beverages. On the other hand, when we talk about the technology of food, we are talking about the application of food science and engineering to the processing, packaging, preservation, distribution of foods and beverages. That is what makes a difference between taking your orange and squeezing it by hand, and taking the same orange and actually using some mechanical devices to actually squeeze it and get out all the nutrients from that orange. That is what the difference between taking your natural fish and converting it into sardine, or taking your cassava root and converting it into gari. That is really where we are talking about technology, because then you are applying your knowledge of food science and engineering to process, package, preserve, and distribute the food. Now, why will consumers select or avoid certain foods? Usually, this will be on the basis of what they see on the label, on the basis of how it is marketed, on the basis of the communication. And the communication can be along religious lines, it can be along environmental lines, it can be along societal concerns. These are actually critical in our knowledge and of nutrition and how we can embrace good nutrition. So consumer education has a very, very important role in all of this. And safe food production, transportation, preparation, and storage are of critical importance in maintaining health and well-being. Let me just give you one very clear example. Every time you see a lorry that is loaded with heaps and heaps of plantain or banana or whatever, oranges, and somebody is sitting on top of it, just know that you are destroying nutrition. Just know that you are not presenting safe products to the consumer. And yet, this, whether it is transportation or production or preparation, all of these things are important to the health and well-being. And tomorrow, that's one of the reasons why we'll be looking at the area of food safety. All right? And many people talk about organic foods. Let me not leave this section without talking about what really are organic foods. Those foods that are produced without any additives. You know, usually no fertilizer, you use manure, you know, there are no genetically modified origins there. You know, you are not using any industrial solvents or any synthetic fertilizers or pesticides. But they may not always be better than those that are produced under inorganic conditions, especially when safe food handling, production and storage cannot be guaranteed. For example, one of the things that you will be surprised to hear is that in Lagos, even in Kano, you have people who use human feces without any pre-treatment. They use them, they say they are fertilizing. No, they say it's organic. That's not organic. You are endangering the lives of your consumer and yourself if you are handling human feces. So for such to be suitable, you have to actually have pre-treated them. So but that's a matter for another point. Now, so let's look at the food nutrients that I mentioned earlier. I mentioned macronutrients, micronutrients, and I also mentioned the non-nutrients. Now, so what are these food nutrients? The food you eat is the source of your nutrients. And the nutrients are already defined, that are those things that are important for growth, reproduction, and good health. But your body needs these nutrients to be able to fuel your energy. To fuel your energy. You need these nutrients to help you grow. You need these nutrients to repair the body tissues. You need these nutrients to maintain simple body functions. You'll be amazed that a lack of, say, calcium in the body, you'll be amazed at what can happen to that body over a period of time. You just discover that your bones will become brittle, and you'll find that the child is getting bow legs, and you're wondering, why are the legs becoming bow? It's a deficiency of one nutrient or another, like calcium. So what are carbohydrates? When you see a label that says sugars, you know the sugars are simple sugars or compound sugars. And then, of course, you have carbohydrates. Your carbohydrates will be things like starches and I'm trying to try and avoid the very big terms like oligosaccharides and polysaccharides and what have you. Just take it that there are complex carbohydrates and there are sugars. And when you take any label from today, you should be able to, when you see sugar, you know that it's talking about a combination of either simple sugars like glucose or compound sugars like maltose or sucrose, which is what you find in many of the fruits and vegetables. Now, carbohydrates are an excellent source of fuel, the energy for the body that I mentioned earlier. And what are the various dietary sources of carbohydrates? You find your orange flesh sweet potato, you find your maize, your rice, your bread, your products like your noodles and spaghetti and all of those things. And your flour like your tuwo, you know, which can be made from either your guinea corn or your rice or and so on, or even your gari. So these are all carbohydrate sources, and it is important for us to understand these various sources of carbohydrates. Now, what are proteins? Proteins are actually made up of amino acids. The amino acids are the body building, you know, the units. And you'll find that The complete proteins will contain essential amino acids, and these are found both, mostly in animal sources. And then, of course, you also find the incomplete proteins in the plant sources. But all of these, and when you talk about essential amino acids, why we say don't eat maize alone, because maize is lacking in some sulfur-containing amino acids. So if you eat maize alone, you will lack some essential amino acids. But when you combine it, say, with beans or soya, then you find that it's a complete protein that you are consuming. And this is one of the reasons why we say, look, you need to have a good knowledge of nutrition to be able to eat a balanced meal. And the proteins will give you energy. They help you to build, maintain, and repair your body tissues. Now, what are the dietary sources of proteins? As I've already mentioned, look at your various fruits, pulses, and legumes. And look at your eggs and fish and meat and milk. These, animal sources as well as plant sources. This is where you get your proteins from. So if you are eating less and less of this, know that your body will be deficient of protein. If all you are eating is a bowl of gari or akpu, and you are just dipping everything in oil, there's no protein, you have a problem. So you will need to be able to understand the importance of balancing your proteins and your carbohydrates. Now, your fats and lipids, you have saturated fats, unsaturated fats, but essentially animal foods contain unsaturated fats, while plants contain unsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, which are desirable. And that's one of the reasons why when you want to look for very healthy oils, you'll be looking at those fats like soya oil, like olive oil and things like that, that actually will help you to reduce the risk of heart disease. But all of these fats, which we also call lipids, help in this, they are necessary for storage and provision of energy, maintaining body temperature. The women will confirm that. Installation of organs such as heart, and lipids help in absorption and transportation of the fat-soluble vitamins in the body. And what are the various sources? Eggs are a good source, avocado, melon seeds, tuna, fish, and so on. You find that these are very good sources of our oils, of our fats, and lipids. These are very, very important sources. So please be on the watch out for some of these oils, especially some of the not so common oils that can be of particular importance in our diets. Now, coming to the micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. We require, some of these people, as I've mentioned, require fat for them to be absorbed. They are vitamin A, and some of them are vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. They can be stored in the body for later use. But one vitamin like vitamin C cannot be stored in the body. So that's why, for example, if, in this era, we are told take plenty of vitamin C, because the body cannot store vitamin C and it will expel any excess at any point in time. That's why you need to take vitamin C all the time. That's why, for example, you want to take high dose of vitamin C, because the body cannot store this, and they are easily absorbed and pass through the body as waste. So please take note of this, that there are vitamins that the body will store, and there are vitamins that the body does not really store. And it's important that we understand this in actually promoting different sources, different vitamins. Now, and so what are the various sources? You see that, amaranthus, spinach, these are green vegetables, very, 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 very nutritious when it comes to some of these vitamins and minerals. your fruits, especially. But you know, many times when you just take only the juice and you don't take the pulp, you deprive yourself of the essential nutrients that go with this. And from the materials you are given, you will see the benefits of many of the minerals like iron. Iron that helps in formation of hemoglobin. And that's why one of the reasons why you are given iron during pregnancy, because you need a lot of, for the formation of the fetus, you actually need a lot of iron. Then, of course, you have things like your folic acid, which if you do not have folic acid in sufficient amounts at the very onset, at the early stages of your pregnancy, it is a challenge because your folic acid will help to, if you don't have enough folic acid in the first 29 days of pregnancy, then the folic acid is useless. So if they are giving you folic acid until you put to bed, it's no longer useful. It's only probably useful to you, no longer to that fetus. So it's important for you to have folic acid in your diet. And that's one of the reasons why folic acid was introduced into the Nigerian mandatory standard. I can see that there are 2 hands raised up. Do you want me to pause at this point so I can take those questions? All right.
Yes, maybe we can pause now. Victoria Ligba, do you have a question? We can unmute you.
If she's not talking, then let's go to the next person. There are 2 hands raised up.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, so if there's no question, let's go on.
Yeah, Monday, go ahead with your question.
Good morning, all.
Yes.
Good morning.
My name is Monday Ojan. I am founder of Smarter Africa Profit. We are about to open a restaurant that will be offering a local dishes in for low-income earners in Lagos here. So I joined this.
Mr. Monday, can I suggest, because the area you are going into, if we begin to take this kind of question now, we will not be able to take the benefit of this training. Why don't you let us, for this, I thought you wanted to ask something about what I've been talking about. But if it is of a general nature, if it's of a general nature like this, I suggest you just hold on while we come into that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. So, as I was saying, so issues, but vitamins like folic acid, for example, you need them to ensure that you can meet the necessary requirements. And you know, folic acid, as you will find, is required for the formation of the neural tube, the spinal tube, the back. So when you begin to see people who have a hunchback, don't think that it is a witch that is responsible. No, it is because there was deficiency of folic acid at the point of conception and within the first 29 days. And so the neural tube was not properly formed. So these are some of the things you need to understand from this type of training. And then, of course, your fluorine and how it is important for your teeth and your bones, for example, and iodine. And I will show you some slides now that tell you the significance of all these vitamins and so there are some of these vitamins and minerals. I'll show you that right now. And I want you to look at some of these things. You can see, for example, what happens when you lack, well, okay, maybe I should not talk about this yet until we come into this other area. But look at this. When we lack iodine, you see what happens. Goiter, you can see that enlargement of the thyroid gland. That's the goiter. which is due to lack of iodine. Look at lack of iron. Look at lack of vitamin A, and you can see what has happened, which we call keratomalacia. Look at the cornea. Look at the eye. If you look at the eye very closely, you will see that there is a challenge there. So lack of vitamins and minerals like vitamin A, you know, when the last time we did a national nutrition survey, we found that there were parts of this country that had as high as 41% blindness. 41%, most of which was due to vitamin A deficiency. So this is why, in fact, vitamin A became a big household issue in Nigeria. And we now started to fortify products with vitamin A. And one of the things you would, and this is the genesis of all the vitamin A in flour, in sugar, in vegetable oil in this country. Okay? Now, let's go to the different types of malnutrition. When we talk about undernutrition, as I mentioned before, wasting is a form of undernutrition. It is where a person has a low weight compared to healthy individuals of the same age. So if you find a mother who is giving an infant formula to a 9-month-old child, and instead of putting 10 mils of water for every spoon, and he's putting 1 spoon in a whole jar and giving the baby that kind of formula, the baby will not grow. There's no way the baby will grow. So it is important for us to understand that there will be a gradual deterioration of such of the cells of such a body, to the point that it will deteriorate to the point that will result in what we call kwashiorkor, or even as bad as marasmus, where the baby is practically skeletal. So when you talk of stunting, it means that the person is too short for his or her age compared to other healthy individuals of the same age. So you can see what we're talking about. So you see a 5-year-old that looks like a 2-3-year-old, you know that there is a challenge. That child is stunted. And we have already mentioned the fact that in this country, what is the level of stunting in this country? As I mentioned earlier before, these are some of the challenges that we have to combat through our food and nutrition businesses. People must pay attention to the fact that whatever is happening, it is important in the first 1,000 days, it's important in the first 5 years of first 60 months of every child to actually be able to ensure that they get good nutrition so that they will not be undernourished or wasted. And wasting or undernutrition accounts for about 45% of deaths among under 5 children. And you can imagine that 5 in 10 children are malnourished in Nigeria, either stunted, wasted, or overweight. So you can see that this is a major challenge. I mean, on the other hand, look at overnutrition. Look at somebody, a baby that looks like an adult, or you see that this child is already obese. The child will not be able to carry him or herself all around. So, and on the other hand, look at an underweight child. You can see that the child is too thin. You can see the skeletal structure. And this is all that we want to prevent by actually ensuring good nutrition, whether in the home or in what we deliver to consumers out there through various food businesses. It is when we have a good knowledge that we know when we are destroying nutrients, and we can actually prevent this. And micronutrient deficiencies can also result in undernutrition. And you know, I mentioned before the fact that we have a triple body of nutrition in Nigeria, which is your undernutrition, your micronutrient deficiency, and obesity. And this is a major issue. Serious deficiency disorders will develop when you have micronutrient deficiencies like iodine, vitamin A, zinc, and iron. And these are major challenges that we have in this country. They represent a major threat to the health and development of our populations, particularly to our children and pregnant or lactating women. In the case of overnutrition, let me say, for example, that you are taking in more nutrients than required for your normal growth, development, and metabolism. Overnutrition means you are ingesting more nutrients than you actually require. And this is what, you can have overnutrition, which in fact overweight, which will also manifest eventually in obesity. And we're going to tell you, and this is actually usually because there's a lot of fat accumulation that will impair your health. And this is why you find a lot of, even nowadays, you find a lot of people in their 20s and 30s who have become too fat for their own good. And they are shortness of breath and all of that. And in this COVID season, we talk of underlying issues. If you are excessively fat and your arteries are already clogged with fat, definitely you expect that this can become an issue for you. God forbid, if we are going to contract COVID. So this is one of the reasons why it is important that we have a balance between energy consumed and energy expended in the body. Now, between overnutrition and undernutrition, you see that in developing countries, people suffer mostly from undernutrition because they don't have enough of their needs. Whereas in many developed countries, people are eating excessively. A lot of, they are consuming far more than what they actually need. And this in itself can also lead to heart disease, obesity, and other non-communicable diseases. Here in Nigeria, you will find that we are gradually finding elites that are tending in the direction of non-communicable diseases, while you are having a good segment of the population that are undernourished. So this is the time that we need to address all of these issues by focusing on balanced nutrition in our population. These materials will be available for you. And as somebody mentioned earlier, if we do not have good nutrition, we cannot have good household food security, because everything must start at the household level, and we must ensure that malnutrition, will take care of household food security by ensuring a good focus on nutrition at the household level, so that we prevent one form of disease or another, because diseases will occur when you don't have adequate dietary intake of nutrients, as I've already mentioned. I can see that some people are raising their hands, but may I plead that you get to a convenient point where I can pause, and then I will take those questions. All right? So what is the negative impact of this malnutrition? You can have infections very easily. You can easily be confused. It usually is an indication of zinc, lack of deficiency of zinc. You can have reduced mobility because your body will not carry you as swiftly as you should, and so on and so forth. Just look at all of this and just see where your own opportunities will lie. How do you prevent all this? Increases of fractures. If you are lacking in those minerals that are important for bone formation, you know that you have significant risk of suffering from fractures. Now, looking at comparative trends in nutrition, look at Nigeria and look at the kind of, and I'm taking data that we have compiled from different sources. In Nigeria in 2018, we were talking of about 37% people stunted, underweight 22%, wasted 7%. So in all of that, can you see how significant a part of the population is that is actually suffering from malnutrition in one form or another. This is a major challenge. And then simultaneously, we talk of iron, focus on iron. Anemia is very high at a level of about 68% compared to other countries in Africa, where you're talking of 36 and 37. But you know, so you see that's an area where perhaps our population is a disadvantage. But it doesn't have to be so. We can actually reverse that situation. All right? Now, at this point, I can pause because I want to go on to healthy diets. And I'm mindful of time because we cannot take, I would like us to actually be able to move as quickly as possible. But I had two people raising their hands. Do we want to take the questions from those people at this point?
Yeah, we can do that. So I would let the name here is Techno POP. I don't know who that is. I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question now. And Ife Olua Oyewo, you can ask your question. You've both been unmuted.
Well, it looks as if we're having some difficulty with this. Our time is going.
Yeah.
So if they cannot, well, maybe we'll just carry on. And then hopefully when we come to our question and answer session, we'll have opportunity to ask questions. All right, so what are healthy diets? A healthy diet is one that will provide adequate amounts and variety of nutritious and safe foods to cover your energy and your nutrient needs. Adequate amounts of all the nutrients that I've already discussed up to now, and in a nutritious state, and safe enough to cover a person's need and in terms of energy and calories, but must not exceed. That's what we call healthy diets. Healthy diets, therefore, must be safe, they must be taken in moderation, they must be minimally processed. So like I mentioned before, when you talk about our diet in Nigeria, somebody says, oh, the typical household diet in Nigeria is if you haven't taken up to 6 or 10 slices of bread, your breakfast is not complete. But that is absolutely wrong. All right? So you need to take these things in moderation. Minimally processed, there must be a variety. If you are eating a food that does not consist of 4 different food groups, then you are not eating well. And when I talk of food groups, I'm talking of starch, fruits and vegetables, legumes, meat and fish, milk and all milk products, fats and oils, sweets, all different food groups. You must be able to, at any point in time, make sure that you are eating a combination of at least 4 different food groups. That's when you will say you are eating well. All right? And what are the benefits? It helps to improve your productivity. It helps to increase your health at the family level. And when you improve your health, you spend less on disease, on treatment and curative treatment, because you will live a healthy life. Your cognitive skills will be developed, especially for children, and it helps to promote growth and development. Now, many times we see on our food labels, recommended daily allowance. It can be in terms of energy, it can be in terms of protein, it can be in terms of carbohydrate, it can be in terms of fat, or it can be recommended nutrient intake. Please always pay attention to what is on your label. And that's why the food nutrition label is extremely important. But very few of us pay attention to this. So if you are taking a product, if you are consuming a certain quantity that already meets more than your required energy level in a day, then you are consuming excess calories. So we must pay attention to what our labels are saying. Now, having said that, let's move on now to human life stages.
Please, I have a question.
Yes.
All right. Good morning. My name is Adeniran Olushola. I have a food science background, and I am passionate about food processing. But my concern these days is most of the time, these multinational food industries, I don't know the body that are regulating them in terms of some of this drink company, if you discover what they are using currently, I don't know how the Nigeria food body is regulating them in terms of sweeteners, because these are some of the issues that bothers me most of the time. Even no longer using sugar, some of them are using ACK as a form K. I don't know if you are listening to my question.
Thank you, thank you.
I know most of them are particular about making profit.
For the sake, because of our time, because I understand many of you will not be able to spare all of the day. We can be talking and talking, as far as I'm concerned, for the next 3 hours, but I don't know, we don't have that time. So, yes, I take your point. I think this is about sweetness. The truth of the matter is that, as I mentioned in another forum, sweeteners are essential. I mean, they are non-essential. They are not metabolized by the body. There are nutritive sweeteners and there are non-nutritive sweeteners. As a sulfam that you have mentioned is a non-nutritive sweetener. The important thing with many of these sweeteners, because you have aspartame, you have saccharin, you have cyclamate, you have sulfam K, and so on and so forth. But the important thing with these sweeteners is that they must be taken in moderation. When we abuse a sweetener, then you expect that it will not achieve its optimum performance. And so what we actually should be expecting is not that those things, if you take anything, even water can be toxic if taken in excess. So it's important that many people are using these things without reference to their safe toxic levels. I think that's really where our problem is. And for that, I don't want us, for lack of time, but this is something we can take outside of this training. I mean, I appreciate your concern, but there are different ways by which people are applying some of these sweeteners without knowing what is the safety limits or toxicity limit or toxicity levels of these various sweeteners. But that's an issue for later. Now, let's go to the nutrition, the human life stages. We have the fetus, the infant, the baby and the infant, the toddler. You know, you grow today. You know, in those days, we used to say that anybody up to 60. In fact, at some point, when we had the average lifespan of the Nigerian was not more than about 44. We said, a 44-year-old is old. But today, thank God, things are getting better. But definitely, you will discover that we have what we call the childhood years, we have the adolescent years, and then the adult years. And we're going to be looking at each and every one of these stages as one that has specific nutrition requirements. And so when we talk about life cycle nutrition, what are the areas that you talk about childhood? Childhood is from 6 months to 59 months, 6 months to 16 months. And the early childhood is the 6 to 9 months. And the late childhood is what we call usually 24 to 59 months. And in the early stages, a child should be given nutrient-rich foods, at least 4 food groups every day. And you must limit sugary and salty snacks and drinks such as potato and potato crisps. Please, just hold your questions. We'll I want to run through this so that we can take all our questions at once, so that we do not disrupt this. Cakes, and some people give their baby infants, they give them cakes and potato crisps and say, they can eat it. Please, let's limit such intake from now on. And a healthy, nutritious meal for the child is one that I can take at school. Milk, sandwiches, and so on, and fruits like oranges and fresh fruit juices and what have you, that they will need to actually grow in a healthy manner. In the late childhood years, child should be fed about four meals a day, 2 to 4 meals, and 1 to 2 healthy snacks in between meals. And not that a child must eat only 3 times a day. You just said, snacks are very, very important in between meals for growing children. And you must include at least one food from each group when you are preparing this. And these things must always be prepared under good hygienic practices. So you find that is the age at which, that's the early stage at which children are very susceptible to diarrhea and other childhood diseases. And then you find that diarrhea comes and the child within a very short period has dehydrated, and dehydration takes away. Within a short time, the child is gone. So it's important that we understand this. And make the meal time a happy time for the child, not the one you have to force. Because if the child is healthy, he will be happy to eat. It's only when the child is not healthy that he will refuse to eat. Now, in the life cycle, we have, like I mentioned before, the adolescent stage, usually between 10 and 19. And these people undergo very rapid growth. You see somebody who was 11, by this time next year, 2 years later, you just see the person suddenly growing. Bam. That is the point at which rapid growth occurs, and they need a lot of calories to support that rapid growth. And they must eat at least 3 nutritious meals a day with 2 snacks and a variety from different food groups. So it's very important that for girls, they must eat iron-rich foods, because that is the time at which they are beginning menstruation, and there is increased blood volume and muscle mass forming. And they must also take plenty of calcium-rich foods and beverages, at this stage. Then for women of reproductive age who can enter into pregnancy at any time, this is one of the areas where I said they must never at any point in this age be deficient in, say, folic acid. They must make sure that every nutrient depleted during pregnancy and lactation is actually replenished for future pregnancies. And some of the nutrients here are energy, your iron, your calcium, and your protein. For pregnancy, in such conditions, you need to ensure that a pregnant mother actually requires extra energy, because you require extra vitamin A, calcium, iron, zinc, and iodine, because you want to make sure that the baby fetus that is forming is not deficient in vitamin A to the level that it can cause blindness, And of course, zinc is important, calcium to form the bones, iron for cognitive and physical development, and to prevent mental retardation as the baby is growing. These are very, very important. Like I said, you are going to, some of these materials will be shared with you, so you'll be able to, beyond this training, maybe after today, we will allow a few minutes tomorrow morning for people who read these materials overnight to also come and ask questions. Then for lactation, the lactating mothers need to make sure they replace the nutrients that are in breast milk, and they must also eat enough. That's why you see a lot of lactating mothers that are anemic. You see a lot of them that will feel faint when they are not eating and they are breastfeeding. So it's extremely important that children under 6 months should be exclusively breastfed. And luckily these days we have, you can express your milk into and freeze it and give the baby. So these are some of the ways working mothers manage this. Now, the demands are much higher in pregnancy, and we need to look at what care a lactating mother must take to avoid contamination during breastfeeding. Some people will express their milk into a contaminated container. That we must avoid at all times, at all times. And all of these things are important because if a child is born with a birth weight that is below 2.5, it means that there was not an inadequate nutrition during for the mother during pregnancy. So we need to pay attention to some of these critical indicators. And then, of course, you also must avoid overnutrition. Obviously, you see children that are 4 kilograms. That is an unnecessary weight. That's it's a major problem when you have a baby that has excess fat. It means that the mother was over, was in an overnutrition state during pregnancy, which must be avoided because it is an unnecessary burden, which the body does not need. For most part, nutrient needs can be optimally met by consuming a well-balanced, adequate, and healthy diet consisting of local staples. But let me mention that the first rule is moderation. Avoid excessive consumption. This is one of the problems that we tend to have in this environment. Okay? And human milk is the best food for newborn infants. And at some point, you will need to introduce complementary foods. And when I talk about complementary foods, I'm talking about those things that will complement your breast milk to ensure that the baby has enough calorie, meets its calorie needs as it is growing. All right, so that's very, very important. When the diet of the mother is inadequate, the quality of milk is preserved over the quantity, except in very severe undernourishment. In other words, you find that when your diet is not adequate, you find that there is not sufficient milk because the body is ensuring that it's providing adequate quality, but it doesn't have enough quantity to meet the requirements. So the milk you are still getting, the child is getting is good, but the quantity is insufficient. So it is important that you actually ensure that you balance the quantity with the quality for the growing baby. And just as I mentioned, exclusive breastfeeding is critical. And after 6 months, you go to exclusive breastfeeding plus complementary feeding. That's where you begin to use your the different products, cereals, cereal legume formulas that actually are used to ensure that the child has adequate nutrients. Now, what are the influences on young child feeding and dietary practices? I always say that you need a lot of energy and micronutrients for toddlers and preschool age children to achieve their full growth and development, either in the short term or in the long term. And so parents and caretakers have serious influence on this particular age. For example, we are doing school feeding programs in many states now. And you'll find that where if you are just giving a child a juice or a drink that is just sugar and water and color, you are not helping that child. The child is looking towards coming to school and having 1 meal a day in school, and all that is getting is water and sugar and color. That's not healthy nutrition at all. Whereas another state is saying, okay, we'll give them milk. Can be soya milk, it can be cow's milk or whatever. That is nutrition. So it's important as parents, caretakers, or school teachers for us to actually ensure that your food habits and preferences at this stage actually influence the child positively for their lifetime. Don't give them something because you want to shortchange and say they are taking quantity over quality, because you may just be destroying you may just be forming very, very bad habits over a period of their lifetime. And that's one of the reasons why, one of the underlying reasons why even issues of hypertension, obesity, even in the early 20s now, you find a lot of children in this country suffering from that. So I would like you to take note of this. One of the activities I've designed for this is that you must be able to give comments on experience with toddlers, preschool age children, and school age children. And the tip for you is that how do you introduce proper dietary practice? How do you make their meal times pleasant? How do you provide variety rather than portion size? Moderation is important in anything, but variety is so critical because you get different nutrients from different sources. Children must eat foods that are familiar to them, and because they may reject new foods. For example, you may go to the market and say you want to buy complementary food, SMA Gold, all these complementary foods imported that are made from things that children are not used to in this environment. You may find that your children will reject them, and they will be more comfortable when you make your rice and fish and this and that and form that into a complementary food. So make sure you are giving children what they are familiar with, and know that every human being is a product of your gene and your environment. So children are influenced by their environment. So you must ensure that you encourage their preference for a variety of foods that they are used to within their environment. Now, at the adolescent stage, this is usually defined as the 12 to 21, some say 19, but I say let's just take it as 12 to 21 here. This is a time that there is a lot of physical, secondary school, social, and cognitive change. The child is growing into a young adult very quickly. Growth and development during puberty is sensitive to energy intake and nutrient intake. So when you don't have enough energy, the linear growth may be retarded and sexual maturation may be delayed. So that's why you will find that some people, two children born from the same womb, living in different environments. One is growing, the other one is not growing, and you begin to wonder. Just go and look at their energy and nutrient intakes, and you will have the answer. The standard way to gauge the adequacy of the energy intake is to assess the height, the weight, and the body composition. And we will discuss this as we go along. And so while undernutrition is a prevalent problem, overweight and obese adolescents are becoming a common occurrence, which by our knowledge of nutrition, we should be able to address even at the household level in this country. Eating habits of adolescents, they are not static. They fluctuate throughout the period. You'll find boys, for example, they will eat a whole bowl. Maybe by the time they're 15, 16, 17, 18, they are eating so much. By the time they get to 19, 20, they begin to slow down. As adolescents mature, they spend more, they relate less to food. And because some of them are separated from home, if they are going to a boarding school and things, some of their eating behaviors begin to change at that level. So you need to look at the nutrition needs and education based on how they impact the appearance, the performance, and even the academic performance of the adolescent child. Because it's extremely important that at this stage, we focus on long-term disease prevention. So if you see a child who thinks that is very, very healthy because he's getting fat and obese, better take steps to introduce such a child to fruits and vegetables that will actually bring down the weight as quickly as possible. Now, for young adults, These are people who have stopped growing by the time they reach their 20s. And usually we say young adults are people like 20 to 64. And this is a time that diet, physical activity, lifestyle, body weight will strongly influence the course of their health and wellness. You know, so and this during these 40 years, 44 years, the lifestyle choices interact with the gene, the social forces, and the environmental factors to determine the years of life and the quality of life. And this is what happens. You see somebody who is only 45 and he looks 70. You see another person who is 64. It looks like a 45-year-old. This is a combination of the lifestyle choices that people have made, you know, in those in the early years of their adulthood. And so the dietary recommendations must be such that will always reduce the risk of specific diseases and ensure that the population consumes adequate levels of the required nutrients. And by the time you get to middle adulthood, physical changes become more apparent. And you know, many times today I say to myself, I'm able to do 6-7 kilometers walk at a stretch in one day, go for my daily walk. And I have colleagues of my own age who cannot get up from their seat. So we need to pay attention to how we manage our bodies, especially in this young adulthood, because the consequences are going to wait for us at the end of the road. So what type of diets would you recommend for these young adults? There are diets that we talk about as carcinogenic diets. All right? So we must avoid them. You know, choices that will increase your risk of some cancers. There are carcinogenic diets. There are atherogenic diets. Those that will promote deposit of plaque, you know, fats in your arterial walls, and will lead to the development of what we call atherosclerosis and other cardiovascular disease. These are the non-communicable diseases that we have been talking about. The obesogenic diets, those ones that will lead to excessive energy intake and accumulation of body fats. Those are the ones that we call obesogenic diets. All right, so we need to be very, very conscious of all of this. And for nutrition in the older adult, please, we need to see the opportunities in eating healthy at this age to stay healthier and to be active for much longer. I mean, one of the case studies I've read that I always like to give a very good illustration of is the one about about Heinz baby foods, where you saw a situation in which Heinz baby foods, you know, by the time you get to a certain age, you are no longer, your dentition will not support your eating or chewing anything anymore. So some of them resort to baby foods, whereas you will say that this is only good for babies. And you know, that particular case study, for any one of you who is interested, please read that case study online. You will see exactly what happens. What happens when your dentition begins to weaken and you have reduced mastication abilities? What happens when you live alone and you have no one to help you grow or buy or prepare enough food, you know, as an adult? What happens when you are prone to illnesses that increase your nutrient needs? What happens when you are overweight or obese? And so you become sedentary. And every time, give me that remote, give me that bottle, give me that. You can't get out of your seat because you have not managed your nutrient and energy intake, especially. So you have accumulated a lot of fat. So it's important that as individuals grow older, they need to eat less. They need to be sure that they are not taking extremely nutrient-dense foods because they will deposit this as fat in their bodies. Then, you know, you have specific nutrition-related health challenges, as I've mentioned, bone health, diabetes, overweight, cardiovascular diseases. These all have influence on the state of your health at the later stages in life. So you need to eat well to reduce this. And then, you know, you need to look at, I mean, I'm going to leave some of these slides with you. You need to know the tips for managing illnesses. Older adults must take less and less food. They must prepare food in a hygienic manner so that there is no infection. And a breastfeeding child, you know, it's important when at different stages of life, the self-preparation is extremely important. Many of these I've mentioned before. So let's go straight on now to say, what am I for the adults? What are you recommending? You eat your rice or bread. You must eat it with some milk, some meat and some milk. You must take some fruits and vegetables with it. So it's very important that you have a healthy plate at all times. Now, let's go straight on to what an index of your state of health is. The body mass index. I'm sure we have all gone to the hospital and they've taken your weight, your BMI, and they've told you, oh, your BMI is 30. If your BMI is 30, then you are already in the obese class 1. Don't say that you are not yet, you are just overweight. You are not overweight. You are already obese. If by the time your BMI is 35 and above, you are already in a very, very critical state. So if your BMI is not between 18 and 25, then you are not normal. And by the time you start having a BMI below 18, then you know you are underweight. And this is simply your height. I mean, your weight over your height. That's how it's calculated. So you can actually do it even at home. So what are we talking about, therefore, in summary? Different ages have different needs in the life cycle. There are particularly pregnancy and lactation demands. There are breastfeeding, infant and young child feeding practices, and there is nutrition in the older adult. Because of our lack of time, I'm just going to run through the remaining of this so that we probably will have enough time to take your questions.
We seem to have lost Prof to network challenges. So while we wait for him to come back online, I can see 2 hands raised. Damilola Clark and Oluyemisi Ogundipe. If you did not raise your hand to ask a question, please lower your hand. But if you did, I will unmute you now so you can ask your question while we wait for Prof to join us. Yeah, Damilola, you're unmuted. You can ask a question. Okay, I can see the hands have gone back down. There was a question on the Q&A that asked, how does one become part of the SUN group? If you're referring to the SUN Business Network, it's for businesses that are registered to operate in Nigeria. So it must be registered with CAC. So like Yetunde said, send an email to sbnnigeria@gainhealth.org and we'll continue the conversation from there.
Are there existing questions on the Q&A?
Let me scroll up. There was a question someone asked about, someone said they had a prototype product targeting children below 5 years in Nigeria and needed help to launch that product. There was, I think that was the only question. I can't see any other question. And there was another one about why sugar was added to almost everything a baby consumes.
Okay, let me take this. Let me just take the last one and then the other one. The other one, I don't know what exactly. Sugar is normally added. It's usually added because it is a sweetener, because they think children will like sweet things. That is the first thing. And it's also a source of energy. It's a carbohydrate. It's a carbohydrate, but there are limits to which you can add sugar. So it's also serves as a bulking agent. That's what sugar does, especially if it's powder or liquid or in a semi-liquid paste form. If you add it, so it's a texture modifier. So that's what sugar is for. Firstly, it's for as a sweetener. That's why people use it, because if it's not sweet, children will not likely take it. But like I said, there's a limit. There's a limit to which you can put sugar to the food that the baby is eating, just sweet enough to be consumed.
Thank you, Doc. There was also another one about Olushola says she's working on fortification of Gary with some basic with some basic vitamins and is looking for suggestions.
Yeah, you know the way you know the uses of Gary, so you need to first of all decide on whether you want to do an all-purpose fortification or a specific fortification for Gary that will be drunk using water, or Gary that will be made into a pudding. So that will inform the type of fortificants that you can use, and then you look at the frequency of consumption of Gary. And then you now have to look at what other sources of those vitamins you want to fortify Gary with. If they are already available in food that people eat on a daily basis, you have to decide what percentage of the recommended dietary intake do you want to provide in your serving, in the serving of the Gary, either for drinking or either for making it into a pudding or a paste or a swallow. So you know, for Gary, vitamin A, for instance, the native traditional technology uses palm oil, which is like a source of vitamin A for Gary, apart from the coloring. So the choice of vitamins will depend on whether it's water soluble. If it's water soluble, if you use it for Gary that will be soaked in water, and you turn it and take out the water, and you first drain the water before you drink it, because it's water soluble, a percentage will be part of that water you throw away. So all those factors will be taken into consideration before you decide on what we call the overage. So you will decide on the overage to add that is the additional quantity to the recommended quantity that you are supposed to add, that will be accounted for if you soak it, for instance, and the water on top, you are not using it, you want to drain it. Since it's water soluble, if it is water soluble vitamin, part of it will go with the water. If it's not water soluble or is encapsulated, it will be retained. If you are making a bar, for instance, the vitamin must not be heat labor, what you call heat labor. It must not be destroyed by heat. If it's a vitamin like the B vitamins, for instance, that can easily be destroyed by heat, if you add them, you must be sure of how you want to retain the quantity that you want the consumer to get into his body.
Thank you so much, Doc. I don't know if you can help us take one more question. So Jumoke Akande is asking, what are the alternative sources to sugar?
Yeah, there are alternative sources to sugar. You have date palm. I mean, if you know date palm, for instance, you have stevia. You have the artificial sweeteners. You have the non-nutritive sweeteners. Just like the initial question that was raised, the non-nutritive sweeteners, what they do, they provide the sweetness, and they don't participate in body metabolism. So that is one of the difference between sugar and these other non-nutritive sweeteners. The sugar, it serves as a sweetener, but it's also a nutrient on its own. So non-nutritive sweeteners, they are just sweeteners, they are not nutrients. They don't provide any nutrients to the body. They come into the body through the food that they are used to sweeten, and they go out. Some of them are not metabolized. They go out the same way they were used to sweeten. That's one aspect of non-nutritive sweeteners. So the alternatives include, for instance, you can use, for example, date. Many of you have seen date, and it depends on the product you want to make. For example, if you are making kunus, for instance, on an alternative sweetener to sugar would be sweet potatoes, for instance, to sweeten it so that you only add very minimal quantity of sugar. But of course, everybody knows that honey is an alternative. Honey is an alternative to sugar for you to use natural honey. And then, like I said, you have you have the acesulfame K, you have the aspartame, you have all of them. So you need to choose. If it's for children, you also have to determine whether it's allowable for children foods. Because there are standards in Nigeria that precludes some sweeteners from being used in baby foods. And also there are some sweeteners that are also not allowed. So at certain limits. So the limit of inclusion is very critical if you want to decide on using any artificial sweetener as a replacement for sugar. The other thing you can do is to blend. Use a part of sugar and then use a part of the sweetener so that you reduce the quantity of sugar and you increase the sweetness without necessarily overloading the system with sugar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. And thank you for stepping in.
There's one by Carla Colombo. There's a question from her.
Yeah, I think I've answered that before privately on who regulates private industry. Is that the one?
No, sir. How can the food industry and non-profit sector support people to have economic access to 3 healthy meals every day, as well as teach people how and why to balance their diet?
Okay, to help people to get 3 meals per day, you have to have a source of income. You have to have a means of livelihood. So this type of training we are doing, for instance, training and capacity building is part of it. Okay, are you back?
Thank you. I'm back. Augustine, okay. Thank you. Can you please release my audio video? Can you release my video, please?
You can join back with your video now, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry about that. That was it was due to network failure. I'm sorry about that.
Network COVID-19 impact. It happens like that.
Yes. So as I was just beginning to round up, I said, how do we process foods? We process foods to ensure in such a way that we will not move from healthy to unhealthy. For example, when Ivy was talking, she talked about trans fat and so on and so forth. We have to process in such a way that we don't take them from healthy state to unhealthy state. You don't take away the color and make the food unattractive, or put too much salt or refined sugar, or put too much sweetener, as the lady mentioned. And even especially for older adults, for you to actually reduce the amount of fiber that is in the food. Then you start saying, why, if you are eating, for example, whole meal bread and eating ordinary white bread, you know that there's a difference, because your bowel movement is not, is more affected when you consume one relative to the other. That's as important as it is. Now, in food processing and preservation, I've mentioned the issue of the processed, the unprocessed or natural, and then the ultra processed that will stay for a long time. So I know that some people are in this training that are into jams and processed peppers and what have you. Please, you need to relate to
We have lost Prof again. The internet must be really bad where he is.
Maybe Dr. Augustine. Okay, he's back. Prof, we can't hear you. You're muted. Prof?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
We can hear you, Prof. We can hear you and we can see you.
Yeah, but I'm not, I've lost the slides. I don't know what's happening here. What's the problem? Okay.
Can we have Dr. Augustine to continue answering the questions while Prof is trying to set up the presentation? Ivy, over to you.
Okay, so I'll just pull up the Q&A. I think Prof has gone off again. We'll just
No, I'm back, but I don't know. Something is happening. Somebody's okay. So
maybe we should just go into the Q&A and discussion, because it's even time for that now.
just let me just round up, please. Let me round up at this point. So, like I said, you will find that there are different losses at different levels, and it's important that we understand that there are different processing effects of processing on minerals. All of these steps. This is what I wanted to mention. Whether your product is about blanching or boiling or canning or baking, there are different minerals that are affected. So we need to pay attention to that. And I want you to know that different common food processes will affect the nutrient content of your various products. And of course, packaging and labeling, I can see from the answers that were provided in the polls that you actually have a good knowledge of packaging and labeling and the requirements. But one thing that we have not mentioned is the issue of allergens that need to be put on, and the issue of fortification that I've mentioned severally. I think you are already familiar with that. So it's very important that we know that after 18 years of mandatory fortification in Nigeria, every time you are choosing your raw material, make sure you choose, and it has to be sugar or vegetable oil or flour. Make sure you look at estimation of the total vitamin A or other things that you may be having in your product, so that you can actually have an optimal, you can optimize your vitamins and minerals. Biofortification is another tool, and I must not complete this without mentioning the issue of biofortification, because it's one of the tools we are now looking at in improving the availability of micronutrients like vitamins in your various products. And these are examples these are examples of biofortified products. But cassava, orange, fresh potato, and so on and so forth. And this is the future. And as we begin to look at the food system, wherever you are playing in the food system, whether you are a grower, a harvester, a packer, a middleman, a processor, a transporter, marketer, consumer, or you are the one that is playing in the area of waste disposal, please always understand that you are part of a very critical, you are a critical actor in the food supply system, and your activities will be very, very important. And I thought you should understand that the way that we produce our products in these markets, some of them, especially our fruits and vegetables in greenhouses and hydroponic farms, will help to overcome chronic food and nutrition shortages. And you'll be a new stage farmer, which is very, very important. And the challenges in the food system need to be constantly looked at as we identify the various business opportunities in our food system. So if you look at the area of demand or the area of supply, you know, okay, what are the opportunities in that, in the area of food supply? How can I diversify the production of nutritious foods? If you look at the efficiency of the supply chain, your own may be, all right, what new ingredients can I make available and begin to market? And so I want to leave you with the fact that as an entrepreneur, it is important for you to begin to look at inputs and production technologies. There is a space there for nutrition business. Post-harvest handling, storage, and transportation, there's a space there, a huge space for, because more than up to 2/3 of what we produce in Nigeria are wasted annually in many cases. And processing and manufacturing, market access, distribution and retail, as well as I said before, nutrition education and research. It is extremely important that we look at opportunities in this space. So I want to thank you very much at this point. I'll just leave you with some key snapshots on exercise, good nutrition tips, eating your fruits and vegetables, and so on and so forth. So we're going to go straight on now into your various exercises. I told you that I have some exercises, but I would like to listen to your questions at this point. Thank you. And let me also plead with Ivy. I hope that we are going to be able to take about 15 minutes. Even if we overshoot by about 15 minutes, I'm sure participants will not complain, especially because this is a question and answer segment, and I've already asked them to hold on up to this point.
Okay, Prof, thank you. Do you want them to raise their hand to give make an attempt to answer this question you've put up?
No, if I run through the question, if I put the slide on and anybody does not understand, the slides that I'm putting up now, after this slide, I will put on another slide. I will give you the answers.
Okay, so for this slide, is there any attendee that would like to make an attempt to respond to the questions? Please raise your hand if you want to attempt. Okay, I see Remy Kuteyi. I'm going to unmute Remy Kuteyi. Remy Kuteyi, please click. You can now click to unmute and speak.
Yes, I want to say that is false. Big body boy does not need more protein rich than his female counterpart.
So you are saying the answer is false.
It's false. They are both growing, and a female teenager needs as much protein-rich food as his male counterpart.
I think what you should just say is A is false, B is true, because everybody can read.
For time. Yes.
So that we save our time.
False. B is true. C, that is false too. D is false. E, come see, come sir.
Thank you so much. I will unmute one more person, just one more person, and I will pick Anita Morinken.
And I'll make it a male so that it's balanced.
Oh, gender balance.
Sensitivity. All right.
Looking at the hands that are raised, who is male here? I guess Monday, do you want to speak? Monday or John? You can unmute yourself and speak.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. Thank you for the this very pack. There is a question asked by Carla.
Monday, excuse me, Monday, we are talking about exercise 1, please.
Okay.
Do you have the responses to exercise 1?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
So I'm going to put you on mute. Yes.
Let me go to the next slide. All right.
Yes.
So answers to question 1 now. I think yes, you said false for A. The boy has a higher physical activity to cope with the fast-growing process. So it is true. But you got the B right, which is that it is also true that monthly loss of blood depletes iron stores. C, increased breastfeeding demand does not require increased dietary intake. So the answer, you are right, is false. The COMSI answer, the answer is true. Little consistent food portions should be given rather than a heavy portion. And the last one too is true. The food variety increases dietary diversity, which can improve overall nutrient intake. Thank you very much. Let's go to exercise 2. Anybody wants to try to answer these questions?
Please raise your hand if you want to speak. I've dropped all the hands from the previous question. So if you know you can respond to this, please raise your hand. And you must not be accurate. It's a learning session, so you can just give us what you think the answers are. Okay, Bosun Solarin. Bosun, you can unmute yourself to speak now. I've given you access.
Yes. What are the common nutrition tips? The tips, at least at my age for now, is that I try to eat something in the morning. Like people will try not to want to eat and they say it must be afternoon and then they eat heavily at night.
Okay, so eat breakfast like a king. Very good.
Yes, lunch like, what do they call it? And then dinner like a pauper. So that,
thank you very much. Yes, you will see that in the slides I gave you earlier, I said, always make sure you eat breakfast. For many of us in Lagos, we don't eat breakfast too. So what I've seen, which is a business opportunity in other countries, you see a cereal pack that is not more than what somebody will eat for breakfast, and they put some milk there, and you can just open it and put your milk and water, and you are eating it as you are going in your vehicle. That's a nutrition, that's an opportunity, a business opportunity that people need to take. Thank you. Go on.
Number two, as an agro processor, I process, what is it called? Spices. And I advise people, put my ginger, garlic, black seed, especially for COVID and cold, add it to your tea in the morning, add it to your pap, and it helps a balanced system. That's one of the nutrition facts that I've
Okay, okay. Well, you haven't actually said what exactly they will provide to the body, because we have learned about.
It helps to boost the immune system.
Very good. Okay,
yes,
thank you.
Against sickness, yes. Then from what you have learned, are there any of these tips that you can now consider misleading? I don't think so. The ones I have learned.
No, the tips that we are talking about. Sometimes you hear about different nutrition tips or advice that you get on social media. You get
most of them are misleading, sir. Because you see somebody today tell you don't eat fruit after you have eaten. Some people will now tell you if you eat fruit after meal, it decays in the body, so you should actually eat your fruit before meal. It's so misleading.
Thank you very much. Let's go to exercise 3. Is nutrition counseling important during pregnancy?
Yes.
How does weight status of the mother before and during pregnancy predict your pregnancy outcomes? Is it in all cases that the food that the mother is eating gets to the fetus?
So, Prof,
so
you want someone else to try? Yes, does anyone want to try exercise 3? Please raise your hand if you want to try exercise 3. Okay, Abiola is the first to raise his hand, so I'll click. Abiola Ofuluwe, please unmute yourself and speak.
Nutrition counseling is important during pregnancy.
Okay.
I'm confirming that it's important during pregnancy.
Fine, that's fine. Next.
Okay. How does weight status of the mother before and during pregnancy predict pregnancy outcome? Well, it's if you're looking at weight status, it's just that this may predispose the issue of if I'm looking at it towards the obesity kind of thing, and this may predispose to diabetes if it's not properly managed.
Overweight.
Yeah,
an overweight
or obesity, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Does nutritional status?
Yeah.
Does nutritional status affect? Definitely, yes, because if there's no folate, like it was explained, it can lead to some defect in the spinal cord, leading to all those things. You know, hunchback and all the rest of them.
All right, so
folate is actually very, very important.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now let me go. Thank you, Bosu. Let's go quickly to the slide because of our time. Recommended health weight. These are the answers to the questions there. Lactating mother take to avoid condition. The expression of breast milk and environmental factors like water and sanitation. Very important. Why is adolescent pregnancy a threat to mother and unborn child? Yeah, because the adolescent is still growing and developing. It faces the burden of providing nutrients for the growing fetus. So the person who is still growing is providing nutrients for a growing fetus. This poses adverse risks that, if not managed well, could result in both physical and emotional trauma to the child. And that's one of the reasons why nutrition counseling is extremely important. So let's go to exercise 4. Who wants to try here? I can't see any hand. Okay, so let's go straight to the answer. Colostrum is the first milk that is produced during late pregnancy and for the first 40 hours after birth. So that's why when the child is born, they want to quickly give the mother, because and you must have that first 40 hours after pregnancy, the first probably about the first 1.5 days, very, very critical. It has a typically yellow color and is thicker and provides all the nutrients that are needed by the newborn. Is there a nutritional difference between fore milk and hind milk? One refers to the milk at the beginning of feeding. The hind milk refers to the milk at the end of feeding. The hind milk usually has a higher fat than the milk at the beginning. That's why if you are expressing your milk, you are able to mix everything very, very well. Then complementary feeding. This is the one in which because the child has an additional need for nutrients, you are combining your calories from carbohydrate to protein and everything, and then vitamins and minerals to make it an acceptable complementary food. This is very, very important. Let's go to exercise 5. For the young child, who wants to attempt here? Why is watery complementary food, why is it bad?
Please raise your hand if you would like to respond to this question. So the person with the Techno Pop 2F, you can unmute yourself and speak. No, I'm going to put you on mute. Abiola Ofulue, please unmute yourself and speak.
Supplementary food is terribly bad for the babies because there's no nutrient, it's not nutrient dense, and so the baby is not gaining much from whatever whoever is giving, the caregiver is giving. If it's watery, it's only saying that it's more of water.
Very good.
The nutrient density is poor.
And that's what is likely to happen to such a baby.
Definitely, that baby can't grow well. He'll be undernourished. Yes, and if care is not taken, it can combine marasmus and kwashiorkor together.
Thank you very much. Next question. What's the right proportion of food groups when preparing a complementary food? Okay, you don't know. Let's go to the next question then. Mention snacks that can provide dietary diversity.
No, do you want me to make an attempt on that?
Yes, now, that's what we said.
Can we have other people, let other people as well try to attend? We have other hands, so if we can have them talk to.
Augustina Okonkwo, unmute yourself and speak. You can unmute yourself and speak, Augustina. Or Anita.
All right, ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, so making an attempt on question 2. What is the right proportion of food groups when preparing a complementary food? I believe this is for children, right? When you're preparing complementary food for children, you should ensure that the foods that you're offering them are nutrient-dense food. So we should aim at preparing a well-balanced meal for the children. Well-balanced meal would be a meal that consists of varieties of minerals and vitamins like the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fat and oil, and of course vitamins.
Well, you said nutrient dense, calories like vitamins and minerals. Remember that we said that vitamins and minerals are micronutrients. Micronutrients. So what you ought to be talking about is the fact that a complementary food must have a starch or staple food plus legume or eggs or fruit or some of these other vitamins and minerals, as we have said. So it's important, for example, when you see your complementary food, maybe usually you have about 65 to 70% of cereal, and then about 30% of your legume, and all the other micronutrients are added. That's the kind of proportion we're talking about.
Prof, I think we can take maybe 2 or 3 questions from the Q&A before we end it, because we'll send the slides to everyone.
Okay, yes. So what else? All right, so well,
so
again, you will see these slides. I think you will receive the slides. So we can let's just go to the last exercise.
I think we can take some Q&A. So there's a question here from Anita Morinkin. I apologize for not calling that properly. At what age should soya milk be introduced?
At what stage should soya milk be
introduced? At what age should soya milk? Yes.
Babies should not have, it's only when you are talking of complementary. At the age that the baby can actually take complementary foods, yes. You can actually begin to make that your you know, like that anything before that, please, you must avoid it. Because don't forget that these are protein, I mean, this is a plant source, plant-based protein. And as much as possible, we usually say don't give them before they are 9 months at all, don't.
Okay, someone else is asking, how do we get these vitamins for fortification? How do we get vitamins for fortification?
Vitamins for fortification are available. There are different vitamin suppliers. Please, there are different companies whose job it is to provide some of these ingredients. And there are quite a number of them. If you contact us after this, we'll give you some names of those. Some of them are even SBN members. We'll give you names of this. Like, and I don't want to particularly mention anybody now. But we'll give you can always reach out to them. I think there are about 4 or 5 very prominent companies that will actually be able to support you with these micronutrients.
Okay, so for any other Q&A we have, we'll respond directly to you. We're really running out of time. So now we'll take the post-training assessment or poll. Tomisin, please put that up so people can respond. We are fast running out of time. So please respond to the polls, the questions on the poll. How many minutes do they have, Tomisin?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Huh? Ivy, I would say that if there are still a few questions that have not been written, if there are questions that have been written in the chat, can we look at them before we go?
Okay, so while they're responding to that, I can read some more questions on the Q&A.
Okay.
Someone was asking for examples of foods under the different categories of diets.
Wow.
It's in the slide. It should be in the slide, right?
So
that's already in one of the slides.
In the slide, so they'll get it when.
Yeah. Yes.
Someone was asking what was the title of the case study that you mentioned they should check online. What's the title of that case study?
Heinz, H-E-I-N-Z Foods. Heinz Foods. It's a company in the US. Heinz. You know all those baby foods, Heinz baby foods. It's a company that manufactures it.
Okay. Another question on what is the risk of offering mainly cereals to children? What is the risk of offering mainly cereals to children?
Because cereals are just carbohydrates, essentially. And they are very, very dense. Without any protein, the child is not going to grow well. Because protein is what is required for building, for growth, development, repair, and of tissues. So if you are only giving carbohydrates, you just go and have an accumulation of fat in the liver. So you're not helping the child. Okay, so we have how many minutes more?
About 3 more minutes or 2, less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
So for tomorrow we focused on food safety, and we'll make sure that we have more time for discussion and Q&A.
I hope we're not distracting them by talking from this
a couple of people have already written that they have submitted. A couple of people have written that have already submitted. For some of you that can't see the polls, sometimes it's due, if you're using your mobile, you won't be able to see the poll. That can be one of the reasons. Okay, so we're getting more people responding that they have submitted. So maybe we don't need the entire 5 minutes. I think we can close it at 4 minutes so we can wrap this session up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, then we have
I think
about
there's a question for SBN in the question and answer feature.
Okay. So this is
Thank you. So you can stop it now. Okay, Thomason, that's fine. You can end it.
It's ended. I've ended it.
You can end the poll now.
I've ended it. I've ended it.
Have we lost Thomason?
It's ended. It's ended.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. You can share the results with them so that those who have missed, those who have made a mistake will know. So share the results. And on that note, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity and to say that I believe that the discussion must continue. We can't end it on a 2-hour session on nutrition. The discussion, the engagement must continue. And if there's any way in which you can be assisted one way or another to spin off your business or to consolidate your business in the direction of nutrition and become an entrepreneur, I'm sure SBN will be very much willing to do that. On that note, I say thank you. I'm sharing my slide that says thank you now. And they have stopped me from sharing.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. And thank you for all the participants. We are still up to 62 participants strong, so that's amazing. Tomorrow's session will be focused on food safety. So please prepare any question you have in advance, specifically to your business operations. That will be much better. So you can log out now and we'll speak to you tomorrow. Thank you for participating. And send an email to sbnnigeria@gainhealth.org if you have any further question. Thank you, everyone.